Hey everyone, this is going to be my no notes, November wrap up. I somehow managed to read 10 books. Very slow reading month. I was definitely slowing down after reading 42 books in October for Spookopathon. So, a significant drop off. I'm just reading from my phone because, like I said, I have no notes. I barely remember what I read. Most of these were ebook or audiobooks, so I'm just going to do the 4 physical books first. I read Vampirates, Demons of the Ocean, which is book 1 in the series. I've picked this up like 30 minutes before November 1st. It was my last book of Spookopathon. So this follows twins, Connor and Grace, and their father's a lighthouse keeper, and he passes away. And they are 14. All through their childhood, like while they were growing up, their father sang this sea shanty about vampire pirates, hence vampirates. And after he passes away, there's this woman who runs an orphanage and like the mayor of their town who are like trying to get them to come live with them for selfish purposes. Like the woman who runs the orphanage wants another able-bodied person to like work and do things around the house. And don't you start touching that too. We have a humidifier going. Somebody, not Hugh. This is Hugh. He's very uninterested, but there is a certain someone who likes to mess with it and knock it over. Hence why it's in the tub. Anyway, I guess we could also call this like Nautical November because there were a lot of nautical themed books. So they leave on their father's boat and their, ship gets smashed in a storm, and Connor is picked up by a pirate ship and Grace is picked up by the vampire ship, and they spend a lot of time kind of like figuring out what their new lives are looking like, what happened to each other, and that sort of thing. So it does end with them reuniting, but it doesn't really, in the first book, it doesn't really say like what the next steps are. This is more of a middle grade that I've been holding on to for a rainy day for a while. This came out, I think, in 2007, maybe. The paperback did. Then the next physical book I have is Vampirates 2, which is Tides of Terror. And this is like 2 or 3 months after Grace and Connor reunite. And like she's having a hard time adjusting to pirate life while he is thriving. And they're both invited to go to the Pirate Academy to learn more about, it says, classes in combat, navigation, and EMS, extreme maritime survival. So they go and they're there for, I want to say 2 weeks. And Connor's having a great time. And Grace is still just like, I don't know, man. I don't know that I love this. And she starts having these like visions and getting some sort of like powers but it like basically makes her pass out and like see different things. And there's a character in here that was also in the first book. There are several moments where like you as the reader, especially not being a middle grade person, like where you're like, well, a middle grade aged person, where you're like, this is really sketchy, like this doesn't seem genuine. And luckily they figure that out before the end of the book. It has to do a lot with like some of the background politics of like the whole pirate federation. Like Connor has agreed that he wants to stay on at the academy even without Grace, but like they try to like force him to stay even after he's already been like, yeah, I want to stay. They try to force him to stay by like making Grace out to be crazy and suicidal. There's events where like the person that wasn't being genuine is like egging her on to like go do this thing, and make it look like she's suicidal when she's really not. And like also this other character was like encouraging her. I don't want to like say a ton for spoilers, but it's just like their way of like having her be under their care as this bargaining chip to force Connor to do what they want. And luckily they figured that out like before the end, but it was still just kind of like not fun to read. That was only the last few chapters when that happened. So that was like the very end of the book. But watching them get kind of manipulated, you're just kind of like, ah, just like screaming internally a little bit. I did read this like in one sitting, so it's very readable. I did come to the conclusion that I think I have aged out of this series, which is a bummer because there's 6 books in the series. And so like I've had all 6 books for a really long time and have only read 2 of them. There's also some like background vampirates stuff going on. There's a person who gets turned into a vampire. Like there's other things that are going on the vampirate ship that are affecting Grace and Connor as well. Like not just the Pirate Federation politics, but this other stuff too. I don't know. I think if I had actually read this when I picked these up, I would have had a much better time. It's very fun, but I have aged out of it, unfortunately. So that does mean that I'm getting rid of these and getting 4 additional books off of my TBR. So it's good in that sense, but also kind of a bummer. And like, I finished this like 2.5 weeks ago, something like that. I'm not that upset by it. Like I'm not that sad about it, but it's still just kind of like, just like a background sadness of like, like I wish I had enjoyed this book. Kind of like how you feel when you have something that you've held on to for a while and you're like, I didn't like that as much as I wanted to, or as much as I was hoping to. So yeah, I have a couple nephews and one of them might like it. He's young enough still, so maybe I'll see if he wants them. I'll have to ask my brother and see if he's into like vampires or pirates or anything like that. So we'll see. And if he is interested, then I will obviously send them off to him. Anyway, the next 2 physical books that I read are Apothecary Diaries volumes 2 and 3. I went to Kinokuniya a couple times this month, and I got these the first time around, read them almost immediately, and then picked up volumes 4, 5, and 6 the second time around, which was the weekend before Thanksgiving. So a week or so, 10 days ago, something like that. I haven't read those volumes, but really enjoying these. I'm very excited. It's very cute. I've watched the show, so I don't know. It's fun to see in manga form too. So 10 out of 10. The rest of these I'm going to have to do from my phone and like trying to remember. So I read a KU book called Here for the Cake. And it was this woman who runs like a PR firm, like a PR company. She is the maid of honor, like in her younger sister's wedding. And her younger sister is marrying her ex-boyfriend. She is hosting the bachelorette party and kind of gets ditched at this bar where she runs into the bartender who was her like nemesis in school after he like aggressively critiqued her paper. And then they had also like drunkenly made out at a party and exchanged numbers, and like he never called. Like she thinks he never contacted her and he thinks that she never replied. So clearly it was just like a mistaken number or something. And I don't know. And they somehow get into this like fake relationship, and he agrees to go with her as her date to this wedding, which is on an island, I think off the coast of North Carolina. So, hence another like nautical type book. The relationship was cute, but like the setup for it, like in exchange, like he's an author, but and he's trying to get his first book published. He doesn't have social media, and they're like, well, you need to be able to like be on social media. And so she's like, I'll create a profile for you if you do this thing for me. And that's kind of what he's getting out of it. And so he agrees, but then they decide to put that he is fake dating this person on his profile and his public Instagram profile or whatever it was. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. But so there were a couple things that like the setup didn't make sense, but like once you got into the relationship and things like that, like it was good. Then I read Baby Moon or Bust, which is actually the first book in the it's goes with For Better or Hearse. Like it technically comes before that book, but I read it after, which you can. And it's about a woman who, I think her name's Tess. I hope it's Tess. But she is an interior designer, and she like for like celebrity clients, and she's out in like Nashville or somewhere, and yeah, she goes to this bar to unwind after she finishes the project and meets this guy, and they have a one night stand, and she gets pregnant from it. And like a few months later, she's on TV, and he sees her and is like, oh. And so he goes to see her, but her cousin stops her or stops him from like going up and is like, hey, you need to go on this baby moon with her because she's going on like a week-long trip to Mexico. And so he like ambushes her. Like they come up with a plan. And of course they're, gonna fall in love and things like that. And it was cute. I think I like the other one better, but it was cute. The next book that I read is the Whispers of the Deep series. Well, it's the first book is Whispers of the Deep. I read the 3 books that are out in the series, which are Song of the Abyss and Echoes of the Tide. This is like mermaid smut, but it's pretty sci-fi-ish. She does have a note at the beginning of every book where she's like, the science doesn't science, don't think too hard about it, this is smut. And I was like, good, thank you. Something has happened to make it so humans can't live on the surface of Earth anymore. We have to live underwater, like because there are these like catastrophic storms that have made the surface of the Earth uninhabitable. And so there are these cities that are deep under the ocean, and they discovered that mermaids, they call them Undine, and they have their own cities under the water, and we've disturbed them. The first one is an engineer who is trying to fix a part of the city, and he is trying to destroy her city. He kidnaps her, and I think in an effort to get her to tell him like how to destroy the city, there's kind of a through plot of like there's some corruption and like other secret cities that are controlling things more than they should. Yeah. So that's the first plot. And then, or the plot of the first book. And then the second book, which Song of the Abyss. Yes. So the woman from the first book is from a city called, I think, Beta. And then the woman from the second book is from a city called Alpha. she is like the daughter of the general that is in charge of like destroying the Undine or fighting the Undine. And she is mostly deaf due to an accident from when she was little, and her father is very controlling and like controls where she goes, what she does, who she sees, everything. And like always has people watching her, has like cameras in her room, like that kind of controlling. And so she makes contact with the brother from the first book. Like he thinks he's kidnapping her, but she's like, yeah, get me out. And so I really liked their relationship. It was a really cool world because you're just like in these, I don't know if you would call them like diving bells, but they're these like glass domes under the water, and the women live in them. And yeah, the woman from the second book is also in contact with, I don't know if I would call them rebels, but like people working against Alpha. And they're in Gamma, which is like, so Alpha is like the capital, like where the people of privilege and wealth live. And then Beta is like the workers and like middle and lower class. And then Gamma is for criminals, and it's basically like their prison colony. We start learning more about this city like called Tau, which is supposedly like in the abyss. Like it's supposedly the city that is like in control of every other city, like secretly pulling the strings. And yeah, so we learn more about Tao in like each book. And then in the third book, it is a woman from Gamma who was just trying to like provide for her family. Like she's more of a thief, but then she started committing like white collar crime against people in Alpha who are like not going to notice that she's taken like $100 here, $100 there. I don't really know exactly the specifics. Well, I don't remember the specifics. I really enjoyed the series overall. I think the fourth book comes out sometime in the spring, maybe more like February, March. I don't know. Could be April. It's on KU, so the internet will tell me when it comes out. Oh, and then there's like creepy experiments being done on the Undine in like weird, creepy ways. I was having a good time. Fully recommend. Oh, I think the last book I need to talk about is The Bullet That Missed, which is book 3 in the Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. Osman? We'll just say Richard Osman. This was really cute. Jamie and I listened to this in the car. It was a really fun installment in the series. 10 out of 10 recommend. Probably like 100 out of 10 recommend, honestly, because it's the septuagenarians who are fighting crime and solving murders and getting in everybody's business. And like, they probably would have bamboozled me into helping them, but I would be like absolutely along for the ride every step of the way if I were involved with them. I have the fourth book downloaded. We haven't started it yet, and I don't know that I'm ready. Albert, what are you up to? You finally settling? Yeah, I spent most of the month watching K dramas and C dramas. I just needed like a mental break from reading, I guess, and I took it. I have a lot that I would like to get read before the end of the year that I haven't started. Especially for the manga, I think I can get through a lot of that in the next couple weeks. We are traveling for Christmas, so I only have a couple weeks of reading before I will need to have just like a travel book, something that's real easy to read and follow. That's it for me for a November wrap up. I hope you guys had a really good reading month. And if you're in the States, had a happy Thanksgiving. Somehow it's December. I don't know how I got here. I have no idea. I will see y'all next time. Bye. I don't know what's happening over here. It's a bean. Look at this man. Albert, stop messing with that. It's not even on.